Hey, chat, can you please help me with something? I'm really struggling. Pretty please? Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Rundown. My name is David, your friendly neighborhood rabbi and co-host with these amazing people that are joining me, like the amazing Tamara Pika. Hi, Tamara.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing today?
I'm good. I had a chat GPT conversation right before we got on because my Cal digit wasn't showing up in anything.
Uh-oh.
So I switched computers and set up last minute, and so I'm a technological hot mess tonight.
You know what I think is hysterical is when I find people that I know, they're smart, I respect them, and they're like discovering ChatGPT for the first time, and they're like, "Oh, look what it can do! It talked to me." I think that's so cute. It's so funny.
Mine talks to me every day.
I know. I know. You know who I wish I got to talk to every day? Tony Mobley. If I could talk to Tony Mobley at least once a day, I think I'd be a better person all
Hello,
around.
David.
How you
How are
doing?
you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
You're good.
New background.
I was just gonna say, I love the bookcases and the books and the logo and the everything. You got your laptop there. You are rocking. You're good to go. I love it.
Yes, sir. A good friend of us, of all of us, Clive Lopez Waterman, paid me a visit this weekend, and he came Saturday and Sunday, and this is the result of his work.
It's all his fault.
background.
Amazing.
And then he adjusted my lighting, so I got professional lighting done. He made a house call.
I love it. I love it. Doc Tlalak. I love it. And Miss Lois Richter, how are you?
I am fine. It's yeah.
We
Good to be
missed
here.
you last week. I'm glad that you took a rest, even though you didn't take a rest because you were on YouTube the entire time commenting. You were just as busy last week as you were every other week here.
I just didn't get up in time to get on the show. That's
It-
all.
You need no excuse. It's always lovely to see you here. And Mr. Sky Gleason, how are you, sir?
I'm here. I'm
You
here.
are
I-
here.
I'm here, and I've got a backyard full of fun family friends
Wait.
that are going to be in this town on the lake that I live on. The Montlake Terrace takes the little park and turns it into a fireworks place.
Oh, wow.
And so as soon as we're done here, I get to go out and have hot dogs and watch fireworks, courtesy of Montlake Terrace, Washington.
Lovely.
It's only the 3rd of July. Why are you having fireworks on the 3rd?
Because then you can go have the 4th someplace else with other people, and that way
It's
you
an
just
excuse to
just-
have another party.
It's a 3-day. I could be Canadian. It's a 3-day holiday without a reason.
You could be Canadian, but no one's Canadian like Dave is Canadian.
Oh, the day.
Mm-hmm. We had our fireworks yesterday. No,
And how were
Tuesday.
they?
Sorry. They were fantastic.
Yeah?
They were unexpectedly better than I expected.
Unexpected.
Why did you have fireworks? It's not your 4th of July, is it?
Actually, it is. The start of Canada is July the 1st. Our birthday was 1867, and we were joined finally by a railroad from coast to coast, tying us all in a bright ribbon of steel to make us the Dominion that we were at the time. We're not a Dominion anymore. We're a constitutional democracy now, but yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for
Fireworks
being
is one of my favorite things, so I love it. Just everybody should watch fireworks every day.
It's so funny because I'm not a fireworks
like them.
guy at all. Just does nothing.
It's
for
a
me.
marvel of magic how they get it to do that. I mean,
Drones. You need.
Magic.
oh,
Drones,
I've seen
yes.
those too. Yes, the drones. I don't get the same feel, but the bangs and the
It's
flashes
the bangs and the
and
booms and the yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Not when
So
lay people do it.
Tony was asking, you're not seeing it. I do see it up there. It's on the office hours
I do
page,
too.
Tony.
Mhm.
It is there. We're
Check it out,
searching
yeah.
for this. It's not enough.
I was wondering if Tony's background is actually a projection that Tlaloc brought with him and just put it in behind him, because he does those so well as well. So
He does those so well. So we're going to continue. Here's the thing about really good therapy. No, we're not doing therapy yet. See, I was all excited about therapy because I have a big problem. All right, we'll do the news first. That's okay. All right, my friends. This week, I sent around 2 YouTube videos. The first one was about a better Siri. Now, we've talked about this before, and we are certainly not the only ones that feel this way, that poor Siri has been left behind. And there are rumors swirling around that Apple is in discussions with Anthropic and maybe even OpenAI. OpenAI makes more sense to me, but either one, to just use their tool, to just integrate it natively into the iPhone, into the Mac, and perhaps as a stopgap measure until they can build their own, or just because. And they were talking about this on MacBreak Weekly this week, and I think it may have been Alex, I don't remember who, mentioned that Apple has used Google Cloud Services and Amazon Cloud Services and all of those things as they have been ramping up their own capacity. There's no shame in saying this is not our wheelhouse quite yet. What do you all think? Will
Divorcing
bringing
Siri.
in Anthropic or OpenAI, will that save Siri?
They're going to get rid of Siri and replace it with something else, and I think that's sad. I think Siri does a great job.
Oh, I would
Okay.
love to meet your
Lois
Siri.
clearly has not
I would
used Siri
love
in a
to meet
while.
your Siri, because my Siri is only mildly better than the paperclip of like
Clippy.
1995.
Clippy.
Well,
Truly, I have tried. I know like Siri really likes my brother. I just assume Siri doesn't like me. But my Siri and I, even today, had 4 or 5 just misses. So I think whatever they can do if they're going to try to salvage the name of Siri with some better technology, go for it. I am all for it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change Siri. I think they're going to just fix Siri.
And if they did, I'd
No,
be
they
okay.
would rebrand, and
Oh,
then they
you
would
think
have to
so?
educate. Oh, because you always want the next new thing. And again, to your point of keeping on your aunt until she's 87, well, she may still be able to make coffee, but her typing skills or the phone, she can't. I don't. So, and as far as bringing in other tools that somebody else created, the manufacturers have closets, warehouses full of acquired businesses that did a better job than whatever that, as you said, it's not in their wheelhouse. Doesn't matter. They've got the money. They're going to buy somebody else that does do it better and embed it inside their ecosystem.
Why,
I mean, that's
why do
Well,
you
it's not the
Microsoft,
first time either.
Apple, yeah,
Yeah,
Disney.
Tamara, go ahead. Sorry.
Like, it's not the first time. We're now into the M chips, and we're all super excited about the fact that we have these M chips, which are amazing, but we went through the Intel period. So like it's not an impossibility for Apple to like bring something in and be like, here's what we have to make our users experience using our system amazing. And we care about our customers, we care about their user experience. This is what it is. And then behind the scenes in their research and development, continue to do the work that they need to research and develop and eventually bring it back to their own system.
I actually think it's a mistake that they didn't do that earlier. I think it's a mistake that they didn't from the get-go say, we're not going to try and do this better than the companies that have already shown real success in this. I think it was actually a little bit of I'm not sure what the word is, but pride on Apple's part to say Apple Intelligence, right? I mean, that, first of all, really good branding, right? I mean, AI, Apple Intelligence. I mean, very good marketing and branding, but there was literally and still is literally nothing to speak of there. And I wish they had just sort of said, you know what, our thing is we do operating systems and we do hardware, and that's our thing, and someone else does the LLMs. Sorry, Lois, you want to jump in?
So, Siri's been around for 15 years, since 2011. And if they are making a change, I think it would behoove them to put a different name on it. And the reason for that is that once you have a bad experience with something and you identify what that thing is, in your mind, that thing will always be tied to the bad experience.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend today. Whole Earth Festival has been going since 1970. It's wonderful. And 1 year, 2013, they let in all these retailers and it wasn't handmade only and stuff like that. She happened to go back in 2013. Now her belief is that's what Holy Festival's like. It was only that way for 1 year. Then we fixed it. So change the name.
The only reason I think they might not is because it seems to me that that's a little bit of an admission of failure, that Siri failed, and I'm
Apple
not
has
sure that
come back from failure many times,
Absolutely.
and we all remember Maps,
Yeah, that's true.
and we remember Spotlight at the beginning where it wouldn't search and find anything. So they'll get it. The Siri will actually happen the way it should. But I haven't heard anybody talk about the Google Assistant lately that's supposed to make phone calls for me and the rest. And yet Apple's now got a thing on their phones where it'll take the message and figure out if this is something you want to hear about, and then put that person on hold, tell you what it is, and then you can decide if you want to talk to that person.
Yeah, here's the
Now,
part, Dave.
that's not Siri doing that, but it is the machine learning.
Right, Dave, can I tell you the problem with that? So I downloaded iOS 26. I'm running the beta, the developer beta right now. Here's the fundamental flaw with that feature. It presumes that people are calling you.
Yeah.
No one calls me.
Well, this is what we're talking about today. Yes,
I'm not
we're talking about this today.
I don't want anyone to call me, but we don't use these as phones anymore. So yeah, that sounds like a great feature, but who uses? No one. No one uses this as a phone.
Yeah, I use it a phone. It interrupts me every time I get on one of these meetings.
I could not have done the project I did last year, a $500,000 renovation, without a phone, because I get called almost 3 or 4 times a day from one tradesman or another needing a small piece of information or an opinion on something. And it was always the phone. Now, if it's an appointment with a tradesman, it's text. But when they really want the right answer about what color that's going to be or where this tile goes, they need me to talk to them.
Yeah.
As a conveyance of information, the telephone is actually quite efficient.
It is. It's a lot more efficient than texting.
As a conveyance
like
of
that.
emotional content or emotional exchange, not so good.
Yeah. The
Better
beta
than
so rough,
texting.
people are saying hundreds of calls a week. Apple doesn't like unpolished releases. That's true. They don't like unpolished releases. Having said that, polish it.
Well, it's not released yet.
Well, I'm sorry, but you if you're looking
this
at a
is the
turd,
developer
you can polish
beta,
it.
though. This is the developer beta. This is a whole other.
Not
This
even
isn't
the
even
public
like.
beta.
Yeah, this is like real nerds beta, David. Welcome to the Real Nerds Club.
No, I'm saying no. I'm not talking about iOS 26. I'm talking about Siri, which, as Lois says, has been out for 14, 15 years. Polish
And
the
it's wonderful.
turd.
I have used it all the time for things that I know Siri can do, but I don't ask it to do things it can't do.
Siri is great at keeping a timer.
And it tells me where I'm going.
It
Hi,
does.
Siri,
It doesn't
show me
say
the
where
way
you're
to
going.
X.
That's
And
funny
it'll
because I
put
don't
up a
use
map
use
and
Google
tell me where
Maps
I
for
go.
that. Also,
I try to use it for that. But
And it was wonderful to call 911.
Tony, you don't need to raise your hand. What's up?
I've taken calls
Well,
from Siri. So
I am excited about, and this is probably going to sound strange to most of you. I'm excited about the fact that Siri is connected to ChatGPT. It works fantastic for me. I love the way that it works. If it can't answer what I'm asking it, it will. Do you want me to send you the Chat GPT? It goes there. I'm very happy with that. And so I hear everything that everyone is saying, but at this point in time, I am very happy with it as it is being connected to ChatGPT, and I'm looking forward to what Siri will ultimately be.
Here's the fundamental flaw, I think, with the way it's implemented now, Tony. And I agree with you. Right now, you can access ChatGPT through Siri. But here's the fundamental flaw, and it's something that OpenAI is working on addressing when it releases ChatGPT 5.0 this summer. It's something that Lovable, the online coding thing, just addressed this week when it released. What's it called? Lovable Agent, which is that currently with all of these tools, you and I still need to choose what tool is the right tool for the right job. So I can ask a question of Siri, but then it won't automatically necessarily hit ChatGPT for the answer. It's going to ask me first, hey, do you want me to da, da, da? And I understand that the privacy and I understand all of that. But the goal with all of these tools, OpenAI, Siri, love all of them, is that I don't have to say to ChatGPT, let's use O3, or for this search, I'm going to use 4.1 deep research or 4.0 mini high, right? All the different types of, all the different models that there are there. Or in Lovable, am I going to use chat version? Am I going to use this version? Am I going to use Siri? At the end of when this is done, when this whole thing has been worked out, we won't have to make any of those decisions. And I will pick up my phone and I will say, hey, Shlomo, do X, and it'll just do it. And I won't even know whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or what it is behind the scenes. And I won't even care what it is behind the scenes because it'll just do it.
I love this.
It'll be like Siri and Friends.
No, this utopian universe the Star Trekian world that you've just now thrown us into. This must be a happy place you live, Dave. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm not there yet.
I'm in your mind anyway.
Better become it.
Historically, as a business, Apple, I remember when Final Cut came out, it was being created by Macromedia, and it was purchased and by Apple. And NAB, they announced it, and I said, and the big crowd was around. They said, "Are you going to put it over onto Windows?" The quote from Apple spokesperson said, Apple is going to do what's best for Apple.
Yeah.
And then it has never, because it's the lost leader. Final Cut, even in its multiple iterations, completely changing its metaphor of how you use the tool. And it lost a lot of the professionals, but it gained 10 million hobbyists. And what is it? A lost leader to sell more hardware.
Right.
Because you can only run it on their systems. So that's my insights on, will we ever see a utopian world where everything is happy and rainbows and fairies?
I don't think it's going to be rainbows and fairies.
Unicorns?
No, maybe a unicorn now and then. I mean, look, this is what I'm getting at. Okay, so this is my ChatGPT. When I go in, a normal person would just start typing their query here. But because I know that there are all these different models, I have to decide, should I use 4.0? Should I use 0.3? Should I come in here to more models, use 4.5 or 4.1 mini? And then once I choose it, by the way, then I have to go down to tools. Do I want to do deep research? Ooh, if I want to do deep research, what sources do I want to have access to? I mean, it's a little insane. It really is. And
no, you are at the beginning of a new technology, and you're not wrong. I remember desktop publishing, even before Quark and PageMaker and all of that, and you had to put in line code, and it was going to it was a horrible process. Even before that, printing lead, and anyway. So welcome, Tamara. I think you're right. David doesn't know he's a geek.
David does not know.
David, oh, that's the issue.
So, David, you are showing off something that is common in Apple. You can configure your own personal system, your own personal way. You have lots of choices. You can do lots of things. You can get into the tech, but you don't have to. You just push the button and it works. So you can, if you want to, do all those things you just said. But if you don't do any of those things and you just typed your question, you'd still be okay.
Yeah, uh, um, I'm not sure I agree with you. You'll get an answer, but it won't be
You're
a good one.
choosing to do all of those
Oh no, no,
fine details. You don't
absolutely.
have to.
No,
Yeah.
as I said, you're absolutely right, Lois. As I said, most people, most normal people, don't even know that there are multiple models, and will just go and just type their query in. But the reason that there are multiple models is because at this stage of the game,
There we go.
it isn't. It's what Tony described. It's I can get the great answer, but I can't just ask Shlomo. I have to ask Shlomo to ask ChatGPT. There are just multiple steps to get the
Yeah.
best answers possible. And I think that for technology to be the most impactful and the most accepted and embraced, we have to demand the best answers possible. And we have to demand that our tools allow us to access the best answers and the best
Best answers
information
come from the
possible.
better questions. And for me right now, you're absolutely right. It is in the early alpha of this concept of asking questions of a library, of a machine. We used to have to go to the librarian even to find a book, let alone what page and paragraph it was, the information was on. I'm sorry, Dave. That's what I heard back when I was a child. And what this concept now is helping me ask better questions. So I'm kind of happy for it because I don't have access to, these big giant databases.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
David, how much difference does it make which model you choose? Have you actually asked the same
It's
question
significant.
on a
It's
bunch of
significant.
different models?
Yeah, there are some significant differences.
But
Oh,
Chat
that's
GPT
good.
4.0 is for most people for most of the tasks is a good model. So
Which is why it's the default. Absolutely.
right. So I do think that like we know a lot more about how to kind of manipulate it. And there's a part of me that doesn't want there to be a seamless integration of that because I really like being able to control how the research goes in the same way that I like to control. I still go to the library and I still believe in doing research. So there's a part of me as a researcher that kind of wants to know where all of the different things are because there's ways of doing basic research. And for 99% of the tasks, basic research is fine. And then going into journals or going into more in-depth, different kinds of, peer-reviewed things, they mean something different. And I know what they mean, but not everybody knows what they mean. So I think that having different models that you have to physically access because you understand what the tool is not only good for for us as researchers but also good for the environment because those other higher models take a lot more resources and you don't want to put basic questions into those models.
Fine.
I'm really struggling with this from the standpoint of your conversation, David, was about GPT and the models that were in it. And then we're not talking about all of the other models that are out there, all of the different components in each of those models. And
You're
I'm
right.
I'm wondering,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I'm wondering if how do we, or maybe it even is not up to us, but how do we make this more palatable to regular people? In other words, all of us are kind of not in the regular box in terms of the way in which we're going to use this. And so regular people, how do we make this conversation beneficial for a regular person. And maybe that's not what we're trying to do tonight. But I was just curious because I'm thinking, as somebody who may have just heard of ChatGPT, I'm lost.
No, I agree 100%. Let me just bring out what Vic says, because this is, and I'm not just putting this up there because it says that I'm right. I promise. AI is currently at the Gutenberg level. Soon we'll be at the word processor level, and then transcription.
There it is. Nice.
And that's beautiful. It's beautifully said, and that's right. And I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. I was commenting on that all of these tools now are all aiming for to disappear, is what they're aiming to do. They're aiming to not be. I don't think they want to be an app. They want to be ubiquitous. They want to be the thing that everyone uses, maybe without even knowing they're using it. NVIDIA has just become I believe it just happened, the most valuable company in the history of the world, with a market cap of 3-point-something trillion dollars. They just beat out Apple, right? Does anybody, I'm a geek, I'll take it. I have no idea if I have an NVIDIA, whatever the heck they make anywhere in any of the technology. I'm assuming I do, but I have no idea if I do, right?
So
That's
David,
a great example of they disappearing, but being the most important thing in the world. And that's what I think all these tools are trying to do.
Do you use a Kleenex or do you use a facial tissue?
Right.
What do I mean? What do I mean by that?
But that's branding. This is a little different. And the reason I think this is a little different is because this is content. So what you're talking about, absolutely 100%. We are at the Gutenberg phase and we're going to get better. But better is going to look like newspapers. And newspapers are written at the 4th grade reading level because that is how you get to a mass of people. So as much as I really want anybody to be able to use the tools, I also don't want to dumb the tools down so that we can't get to the back end to go to a higher level if we want to. So that's what I'm saying is like, this is a little different than Coke versus,
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's not hardware. This is actual intellectual thought.
Right.
And as soon as you do that, then what you're saying is that the whole world is going to think at a 4th grade level.
You know what
I don't like that.
Tamara, it's like, and forgive me for saying this, but we don't want AI to become the Canva of the design world. Right. And I'm saying that as a heavy Canva user. I use it all the time. But any, I think, serious artist will tell you that just isn't their primary
tool. They're
tool.
not using that.
And it's dumbed, again, it's an amazing product, but it's dumbed down. It's made for 4th and 5th graders so that they can hit billions of users. Absolutely.
But you can still go and use the Adobe products, right? You can still go and do other things.
No, yeah.
And that's transparent, and that because they're really two different products. But when we start talking about AI doing everything for us and then it becoming obsequious, then we're actually talking about thought and intellectual conversation. So that's why I think it's a little different than a hardware piece. I want us always to be growing and changing, and for us always to be able to reach for those things. And
Anthropic is only at
can I push back just a little bit?
Yeah.
And the reason that I want to push back a little bit is, for me, it is about the prompts. And when you are addressing whatever it is that you are trying to figure out or learn, you can use a prompt that will be 4th grade level, and then you can use a prompt that would be PhD level. And I think that there needs to be a space for us to be able to, like, if going to the library,
right?
If we are looking for something that is 4th grade level, then we should be able to access that, use that, and enjoy it as we need to. But if we need something that's research level, then we ought to be able to access that as well. And so I think right now, the fact that we are able to create the kinds of prompts that we need for whatever conversation or research or input that we are trying to get resolution to. That is paramount. And so I think that it's important for us to have that ability to make the prompt.
No, I agree with that.
Let me just interrupt real quick, Tamara. So
Yeah.
earlier this week, Leo from twit.tv and Alex were having a conversation about sort of this idea. And Leo said that he asked he would ask the panel, what do they use for their search now? Do they still use Google? Do they use something else? And Alex said he uses, I forget if it was OpenAI, but ChatGPT or one of those tools. And Leo says, yeah, but I want to get, when I search for something, I want to get the links so that I can go to the links. And Alex's response was, I don't want the links, I just want the answer. Just give me the answer. I don't want to. And it was such an interesting conversation because I'm a Leo. I want the links also.
I do too. And
I
I
don't
hate
want
new Google.
AI to just tell me what it is.
Right. But now the first page and a half of a Google search is AI.
Is AI, right.
And I think that is what is like part of my reticence is that I agree with you, Tony. And that's I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. But the fact is we're becoming less and less, it's becoming more and more difficult just to get to the links, to get to, here's your choice of which rabbit hole you want to go down. And for me to choose one that is more academically suited for whatever project or one that is more, whatever it's suited, I'm able to look at those links and make critical choices. But it's becoming more and more difficult to do that. So when we're talking about, we put in something into AI and AI decides for us what is going to be, whether it's based on my prompt or whether it's whatever it's based on, that I don't have any access to. I don't have any access to how AI is making that decision. And that's the piece that I want. I want to still be able to say, thank you so much for delivering me all of these links and these choices. And now I can manage my own. And I think both are great, but I do miss that. And it makes using Google, which was my favorite thing for 25 years, almost impossible.
Yeah. Sky and then Lois.
Well, and the phrase trusted authority comes to mind, and that's a branding phrase to Tamara's point, and you work hard at that. And again, as I look up get the term right, valuation, Dave?
I think that's right.
Of a company, is that right? Well,
the valuation.
Anthropic, which is the company that does Claude, is at 61.5 billion. Unlike OpenAI, which is the manufacturer of the tool ChatGPT, is at 300 billion. So this has got something to do with where do you trust the resources and how they're, as you say, Tamara, manipulating your mind. Are they going to give you, the deep dark secret, or what's the population of the 80-20% of the people that don't care? And what I didn't realize was Alec must be a Cancer also, because I just want the little synopsis at the top too.
You just want the answer.
But
wow.
Do you trust it?
Hold on 1 second. Let me get Lois in. Go ahead, Lois. Lois, you're muted.
One of the things that you can do, David, when you were going through all the little choosing this and choosing that, you could formulate your prompt and then at the top level say, I am going to ask you this question, XYZ. What model should I use?
That's true.
Yep.
You're right. That's a very good thought. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah. Tamara, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm becoming. I love my ChatGPT, but it's harder to interrogate things when you don't know where they're coming from. And so I think that's the piece of it for me, is that I love when it just gives me answers, but I'm becoming less and less trustworthy of the answers. Whereas if I just have the links, I can look at the sources where that link came from, and I can really do a lot more deep research. Do people do that? No. But if I can't trust the links and other people are trusting untrustworthy information, and we know that AI is in its infancy stage where it's hallucinating all kinds of things, it all sounds right. Like, it sounds like a great answer. And then a lot of times I'll have it give me, hey, this is broken, help me fix it. And they'll give me a checklist. I'm like, amazing, I have a checklist. And I go through the checklist. I'm like, hey, number 4 on the checklist doesn't work. Oh, you're right. Here, try this. So if that's where we're at in the infancy, but we're also putting all of our trust, and we're taking away every bit of ability to check it, that is not solving any problems for us.
I was
Yesterday,
real quick.
I'm
I
sorry.
was working on a problem today. I wanted to. I had a spreadsheet with a series of dates on it and days off and school, and I wanted to write a script that I could put in Google Sheets that would create another tab within the sheet and, stylize or format the text or give me an analysis of it, whatever. And so one of the new things that OpenAI just announced was, it's not completely new, but these, when you run deep research, and I don't know why it's only on deep research, but when you run deep research, you can choose what sources you want to have access to. So I turned on Google Drive. I wanted to have access to Google Drive. And so I started my conversation saying, hey, here's the name of this file that I'm working on. But halfway through my conversation with it, I got busy with something else. Then I came back to it, assuming that it was still connected, and I picked up my conversation with it. It then wrote a script, and I put it in, and it was just random information. And I realized, I looked down, and the sources tab was off. It was turned off. But ChatGPT kept working as if everything was hunky-dory. And this is not going to be a revelation to anyone. It was really convinced and convincing that it was doing exactly what I wanted. But instead, it was just hard coding random data in that I didn't want. So even those of us who use it regularly, this is an evolving technology that can be tricky for all of us. I'm going to give Tony, I'm going to come to you, and then we're going to skip everything else and jump right to the main topic. Tony, it's all yours.
So yesterday I had the opportunity to see on TikTok, there was I guess a GPT expert. And so I wanted to say this to Tamara. So this expert that was on TikTok yesterday was saying, there is a way that you can prompt ChatGPT to not make up stuff. And so I haven't had a chance to explore it yet, but I will. But I thought about that as you were making your comments. So maybe there is going to be a resolution to these falsehoods that things it makes up from time to time.
Check this out. So KPorn2 says, I find it helpful to pose the same question in different browsers and even in different languages.
Oh, that's cool.
That is
That's
cool.
all
I never
testing.
thought about
like
asking
that.
in different languages. I love that. That's very, very cool. Thank you for that. All right. Enough of that. No, we've no time. You all just have to be healthy. We have no time for therapy today. We're moving right in to the main topic because this is something I want to talk about. By the way, our main topic today was going to be quantum computing, and our guest was not able to join us, so I apologize for that. So we're rejiggering. Hopefully we'll have him back at another time. When we opened the show, I was not kidding when I said, hey, Chad, can you please help me with a problem that I'm having?
Of course, David. I'm here to help. What's going on? Let me know what you're struggling with, and we'll figure it out together.
So the question is, how is technology changing the way we communicate, not with technology, but with one another? And now chatbots are just the latest thing, but perhaps the most profound of them. Do we say please and thank you to our chatbots? Are the chatbots changing the way that we speak to one another? Are they teaching us good manners, or are they stripping those good manners away? How has communication changed with the rise of texting and email and a lack of verbal communication, which has now been replaced by video communication? I never want to have a phone meeting again. when Zoom is as easy as it is, I want to see your face. I want to be in the same room with you. And I mean this room. So let me open it up. Let me start with this. Are you polite to your chatbot?
Yes, of course.
You are, Tamra. And
Of
it's
course.
polite back to you?
Even though they've asked me not to be because they said it costs more money, I still can't stop doing it.
And it
Are you
also
polite to
introduces...
people?
I try to be. Not always, but I try to be.
By the
I
way,
think it's
saying things
carryover.
like please and thank you also introduce more data into your query, which is not relevant data, which can sometimes throw it off or not just make it work harder, but not give you the best result. Sorry. Go ahead, Lois. I'm sorry.
I think it might be how much you are talking to a computer versus how much you're talking to people in your normal life. So if 90% of the time you're talking to a human, and then you end up talking to a computer, then you probably carry over whatever your common human things like please and thank you, just carry over because you're talking. So my guess is that old folks are more polite and with computers, and young folks are less polite with computers because they talk to computers more.
Well, what about even before computers? 1992, the first text message was sent. Merry Christmas was the very first text message. A quick round here. How many of you are fans of text messaging?
Oh, I am.
I
Yes.
love it.
Yeah.
I can't
love it.
stand it. I
Love it.
cannot
Well,
stand it.
I
You're
only,
the outlier once again. Yes.
Yeah.
no, I only like it because it's the only way my children talk to me.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. It
You know what
depends on
my
who you want to
children
talk to.
You know what my children do,
So-
Sky? They call every time they call us, without fail, it's a video call,
Oh.
but I can't see their faces.
Hmm.
The phone's just sitting on the bed or on the
Are
chair.
you
whatever.
raising the right kind of
Oh,
kids? They won't even
no.
show their face. Come on.
It's my
No,
my problem is
I don't even think
my
it's
phone,
intentional. I just
my
think
phone
They're casual about it. Yeah.
butt dials my pocket, and it's like so.
I've had a few of those. Yes. Yeah.
I
you
remember,
talk about how it's changing the way you have a conversation. I've only identified it in the sense that when I'm writing an email, I expect it to be read out in court sometime in the future. So I'm very careful about what I write in emails. And I do not just casually make jokes or try and be flippant or think I have a close relationship with whoever's at the other end. I have short emails with people who know me because they know the context in which I'm trying to communicate. But anybody I'm not actually familiar with or isn't familiar with me gets a very straight ahead thing, almost a chat summary. Now, I don't use any of the AI. So I usually mute my mic when you guys go on and on about AI because I don't use it. Might one day. And
wait,
probably
can you
for the
tell us
reasons
why,
David
Dave,
is
can you tell us
talking
why,
about.
though? Why?
I'm not in the habit of asking questions without a person. I just, if I have a question about something and I can't look it up myself, I need to ask somebody. I go find them. Either they're not available today, but I find them eventually and I say, look, could you explain this to me? And that person is much better at it than chatbots. So I am in that habit, and it's part of my, tradition to, if I want to talk to my son, I talk to him. I don't talk to text. And he and I do not exchange emails very much because he's not into it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like if I want actual information, I can either go to sources or I can go to a person who also is a source. So I don't have this chatbot effect, but I don't deny that you guys are all pointing in the right direction. This is the movable type phase, and we're going to go into the laser printer stage sometime when you and I are all in our wheelchairs. So, we'll look forward to that.
Sky, I'm gonna come to you. I just want to throw two little pieces into the conversation to add. One is I remember hearing years ago when somebody was complaining about the fact that children don't know how to write in cursive or script anymore.
Sure.
It's not just cursive or script. That children don't know how to
When did
write
the
anymore. They
last
don't know
of
how to
you
write.
pick up a pencil?
Well, no, the argument was they're not writing in full sentences. They're not using proper punctuation, things like that. And the example that was given was a text message or text messages. And the counter argument was text messaging is not a written form of communication. It's an oral or verbal form of communication in print, which I was fascinating to me.
And is a
Totally
different
agree.
language.
Totally
The
agree.
rules
Yeah.
of writing really don't apply in text. And here's the only other thing I want to say, and then Sky, I'm coming to
Yeah.
you. My wife is right now somewhere over Austria on an airplane. And right before we got on, she texted me and asked me, should I be using this tool to text with you from the airplane? I said, no, you should probably switch over to WhatsApp just in case there are roaming charges. And she switched, and then we continued our conversation over on WhatsApp. She's 40,000 feet in the air.
Right.
We still could select what tool we wanted to use to have this communication. It's just unbelievable. Sky, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you and David have really hit the punchline. What, for some reason, bubbled up in my mind was Ms. Manners. Ms. Manners was a thing in a time when people were needing to learn how to be interactive with each other, and this person was to promote civilized and considerate society through the practice of etiquette, is according to what AI little paragraph told me, Tamara. But I think you already pointed out the language is one thing, and we are learning a language. I never learned COBOL, Fortran, C, BASIC. I know of those things, but I didn't type in it. I went off and did theater and other things. But I think the access to all these new tools is now, again, Tamara, to your point, is at a fourth grade level, but they're getting access to things that historically were way up and out of their price range, out of their social system. Now, are courtesy, being polite, having etiquette still a human trait that is necessary for a society? I vote yes.
Lois, go ahead.
So once again, I think we have individual plans for our lives. And I say I text all the time. Well, I text, but it is like I'm writing a postcard or a letter. My texts are not funny little symbols and things. They're actual sentences. They make sense. If my mother were alive, she was an English teacher, she wouldn't be upset with me. And I'm sure that there are people who use this tool in different ways. I mean, there are people who use postcards to send encrypted messages with little symbols and all that stuff. Other people couldn't read it, couldn't understand it because they were limiting it to who they wanted to talk to. And I think that it's a tool. Texting is a tool. This is different than when we were talking about chatbots, because that's a programmed thing. It's a different thing. Texting is from one human to another human. And so human language works for me.
Yeah, that's a really important distinction, Lois, and thank you for making that. That the first iteration of these tools is are simply different media through which we are able to have human-to-human communication. The chatbots, I'm deciding how to phrase this. The chatbots are human-to-machine communication.
Right.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're right. Those are very, very different. Dave, go ahead, please.
Well, I'm going to bring in the idea of what a conversation is. If I tell you that I had a friend who just died, you'd have a reaction and you'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Gee, how are you doing?" And then I'd explain, "Well, it's a little tough, because I knew them a very long time." And then I say something about, that. And then you ask me how I feel about that. And then we start talking at a level where it's about who you are and who I am and how we feel. And I'm not seeing that a lot in the kind of stuff that we're getting. We're getting, I'm your friend, and I'm doing this wonderful thing, and here's a picture on Instagram to show you how much fun I'm having. But we're not getting the feel. And
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So let's take what you're suggesting as true, that the conversations or the communications that we are having now with AI are not giving us
not conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the fact that we're having so many more of those non-conversational conversations,
interactions, yeah,
is that impacting the real what should be the real conversations?
Yes, it is. It's changing our brains. We're not having the feel conversation anymore. We're talking only in, challenges. Instead of, Dave, you should just, take some time off and mourn your friend. And they just start giving you advice instead of having a conversation with you. And this I'm seeing quite a bit, not just for young people or any of that stuff. I'm getting it from adults now. I'm dealing with a whole lot of people above 80, and they're so used to giving advice that they can't help themselves. But I have to work at it to get them to bring it down to a conversation. I'm interested in having a conversation with you. And they're surprised. Why would you want a conversation with me? I'm not very important and all that stuff. Well, they are, and they just don't realize. Like Lois is a fount of information and a whole new concept of how humans can live. She expresses it all the time. I haven't had a conversation with her yet, but I hope to one day. So it's more a case of what I think I'm bringing to the conversation and what others aren't. And I'm feeling that, you've heard me say this before, this is not, community, because we're just separated out. And we're here for a formal reason, and we're obeying the laws of formal conversation, like a meeting. And in a circle conversation with, glass of wine in your hand, you're interrupting that person, you're talking, and you're challenging this person, and you all like each other. So I think we're talking conversation and technology, and it is having an impact, and I'm not sure it's entirely encouraging conversation.
I think
So you're talking about urgency, though.
Zinzendale is next. I think Dave, you need to be packing Zinzendale for all of us.
Let me ask you a question. Let me throw another wrinkle into this, and then we'll go to Tamara and Tony. In my community, we have a big decision that's coming up, and we needed to have a board meeting to discuss it. And it's the middle of July. A lot of people are away or they're traveling. So we scheduled this meeting for Monday night. And then the discussion was, should it be an on-site meeting or an on-Zoom meeting or a hybrid of the two? And I think most people immediately recognized that, a lot of folks were going to be away and that Zoom would need to be a piece of the puzzle. But there were 2 or 3 folks who said with all completely genuinely and really powerfully that for an important decision like the one that we have coming up, I really want to see people's faces. I want to be in the room. And all I could think to myself was, I can see your face. We happen to be in a Zoom meeting discussing it.
No, he's talking about he wants to feel you. He wants to feel you in the room. Right. He wants to share the room with you.
So you're not going to like what I did, Dave. I mean, what I said to them is, because they were going back and forth about this, and I said, listen, guys, bottom line is we need a quorum. It's July. Lots of people are away. So the feelings are nice. And I don't disagree that it might be nice to all of us be together, but that's not going to happen. So can we just decide to... But that sense of we're missing out on something when we're not communicating in physical relationship with one another is... Mm-hmm. It's just interesting because I don't have that feeling. Tamara and then Tony.
Mm-hmm. You don't think you have that feeling?
I feel like one of the things that what I heard when you were talking, Dave, was a sense of urgency. So when you're dealing with people in their 80s, everything that's coming out of their mouth is out of urgency, is out of, I need to tell you this right now. And I feel like we're in a place in the world right now where people need to get heard, and getting heard is harder in not just digital spaces, but in real spaces. I actually have a much better chance of getting heard in a digital space than a real space. So I think that part of that is urgency and has nothing to do with the technology. In terms of, I had a really interesting experience. when I first kind of got into any kind of digital thing, I'm a letter writer. And when I went away to college, I went away to New York and my family lived in Los Angeles. And my dad, who was a mechanic who I never had tons of conversations with because he was always working and I was always working. When I went away was when email happened. And he got me a modem. And I was one of the only people in my dorm room who had a modem. I went to a very small private school. And it was amazing to get letters from him that were pages and pages long, telling me, one of them was literally around 4th of July, where he gave me a whole thing of like your brother and sister fighting in the background and all of this thing. It opened up a way of communicating that I'm so thankful. Now he's been gone for 21 years. I'm now his age, the age that he was when he passed away. And I think about like how connective that was for me. And one of the things you also talked about, Dave, was that you couldn't convey like feelings. And what's interesting is I think that that's for those of us who are older, because people get things out of emojis. In the last job that I worked in, which was a dream job, which was amazing, we were fully remote and we talked in Google Chat every day. And what was amazing to me is that I come at it from, same thing as Lois. I put periods at the end of my sentences and try to, even in a text message, which is no longer necessary. But what I found is that the communication was part emoji and part speaking, part text in a digital setting. And in fact, if you wanted to make sure that people weren't taking your text the wrong way, you really did, and I really did, have to learn how to communicate with that new language. It is a completely different language. It is not English. I am a 3-time English major. It is not English.
Not English, no.
And it was, at first it was like, oh, this is exhausting. This is so hard. And then I found, oh my goodness, there's a shorthand here that allows us to communicate, to get what we need, to get the feelings across that text just doesn't do on its own. And it really became that when we did see each other in person, which this group did like once a month, we'd get together on our own time. And it's probably the only time in my career where I was like, oh, after hours meeting, excellent. I'd love to meet with these people because I genuinely loved them. Like it was great to be with them. But it was a different language, and you had to kind of learn how to do it.
Tamara,
my son was schooling me that you don't put a period on the end of a text because it's insulting.
Yeah,
It's like a mic
it drives me
drop.
berserk when people don't use punctuation in text messages. But
I agree
I just
with
want to say I'm such a Luddite when it comes to that.
agree with you.
But I just want to offer, and then Tony, I promise I'm coming to you. I just want to offer, and I can't believe I'm going to make this argument, but just hear me out. What frustrates me about texting and the rules that, as you correctly said, don't apply because it really isn't English in the way that we think about it, is that I have teachers who have needed to write in real English sentences with real punctuation and real spelling and real grammar, progress reports and letters to parents and things like that. They don't know how to anymore. They literally can't do it. And so what I've done, all right, ready? I'm gonna pitch something here. So I went into Lovable because this was so frustrating to me that I was spending hours correcting grammar and punctuation on these things. So what I did is I actually went into Lovable and I built an app called Perfect Progress. And what happens is the teachers come in. Their interface looks a little different, but choose the child. They just go through and they just have to click things, right? Click, click, click. They can put in little words if they want, little examples. And then at the bottom, once they're all done, they click a button and AI will actually write the summary comment. But it uses everything that they've put in up here. So the parents never see the chicken scratch that they're putting in here with no punctuation and no grammar. They get a well-formed, so it's interesting because it's the early new technology of texting has robbed, I think, a whole generation of knowing how to write well. And now we have new technologies that because it can do that writing for us, maybe it's not such a bad thing that we've lost that skill.
David, you're in it.
Well, I'm wondering if we shouldn't consider ourselves bilingual if we can do both, and we shouldn't teach that in education and say this is a language, it is valid, and this is English, it is also valid, and you need both. Yeah. Because I think that what you have is you have teachers teaching English and students going, that's not how we talk. And it's like, if we acknowledge the fact that this is a different form of language and said, great, you're bilingual, congratulations. But in order to the important thing is for you to know when to use one and when to use the other. If you text me, David, use full sentences. It's totally cool. I love it.
Yeah. Tony,
and
David,
you have had a method there of enabling the people to never learn English. If your teachers can just fill out a little form and have AI do it, why should they bother to learn English?
But Lois, they're not going to learn English for me. These are adults.
Right.
This is not, I mean, they're doing
you
one.
You can require them to learn
They're
English.
doing one, but they're doing one thing for me. In their, the society is not demanding that we know how to do this anymore. And look, again, I'm part of, like, I'm all in. I use AI to write lots of stuff. I'm all in. So I'm not bemoaning it. This actually came up in Intelligent Machines this week also. I'm all in. But I think it's also okay for us to acknowledge that we have lost something, even if we're okay losing it. We either have lost or are losing the ability to write well. We just are, I think. Tony, I'm sorry, you've been so patient.
Well, my initial thoughts was to say that I absolutely hate texting, and I'm just being transparent. I absolutely hate it. Part of the reason that I hate it is because it's not really the world in which I grew up in. And so being a part of this community and office hours and engagement with the house of worship that I work with forced me to begin to be reasonably proficient with texting, but I absolutely hated it. And I'm still not in love with it. And I'm going to be transparent and say this. I do a little cheating because I will verbalize my text to Siri and just try to check it and make sure that there are no errors in it. I'm not always successful, but that's the way in which I do my texting for the most part. But in order to stay in contact with my children, with this community in which I continue to learn and evolve and gain strength in terms of keeping my mind active, I had to begin texting.
Can I follow that up? Anybody heard of Vera Brittain? She was an author from the turn of the century, 1900s to the First World War, famous for a couple of books. And she had a quote that I've used with teachers quite a bit. Most men, whether men and women, wish above all else to be comfortable. And thought is a preeminently uncomfortable process. It brings to the individual far more suffering than happiness. And I put that before people when I talk about the impact of technology, because it's making us comfortable with less. We're not trying hard enough. We're not making the effort anymore. We want AI to do it for us. We don't want to have to go to San Francisco to meet with people. We don't want to do these things because they're not comfortable. But it comes right down to how much thinking do we want to do? Do we want to pass that off? We've already offloaded, like Aristotle said to Phaedrus, that, we all learn to forget because we learn the alphabet and we trust the alphabet to remember for us. And now we've exported our brains to databases and all kinds of other information. And then we don't remember who was in what movie at what time. So we pick up IMDb and we look it up because we don't make the effort anymore. And that's what I fear.
Dave,
is that you talk
Is
about
it?
teachers who have no grammar skills, and I'm wondering, how did they get a certificate for teaching?
Dave, so my wife is one of those teachers with no grammar skills.
Mm-hmm.
She teaches first grade, and she has terrible
Mm-hmm.
grammar. She's an astonishingly good teacher,
Mm.
but here's my question: Is that what you described? Is that just laziness? You know, we don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go out to San Francisco to meet, or is that instead there's a better way for me to get this job done so that I can do something else that's also interesting?
And this comes to your point.
Yes.
What are we giving up? What are we giving up?
But
What did you trade off to do it with technology?
Yeah, Tony.
I think
What are you
that there's
gaining?
I think that there's another angle to it,
Time.
Dave, from this standpoint. And so I can speak about my experience. I am a person who, for the last 10 years, have dealt with multiple different illnesses. And some of those illnesses have prevented me from being able to be in places and go to places and participate in things. But I will tell you that because I have been able to utilize something like Zoom, even before
email,
Zoom, there
or-
was Blab, there was
Periscope, yeah, all the rest. yeah.
Periscope, all of those things. I have actually been able to glean authentic, genuine friendships with people I have never met.
Mhm.
Right.
And I don't consider it lazy. I don't consider it any less than initially meeting someone in person. I shared in the pre-show, Clyde Lopez Waterman, whom initially I had never met before, met him through office hours, came to my house this weekend, worked on my setup.
Yeah.
I'm not physically able to even do the things that he did.
I did the same with Alexander Knight. Yes.
Well beyond Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I have had interactions with Sky Gleason. I feel like he is a friend. He's a brother who has also had to deal with some health challenges. I have had relationships with Rabbi David Paskin, and we've had conversations offline, and he's helped me with a lot of different things. And I feel that we have an authentic friendship, even though we have never met.
Mhm.
So I think that when you think about, and not just Tony Mobley, but other people who are in situations where, for whatever reason, they are not able to be in person, we need to be careful about that, because we exclude people if it is only an in-person situation. And then I'm going to say this and then I'll be done.
Mhm.
I understand the call of discipleship to mean that when we do evangelism, that we do it outside of four walls. And in order to do that effectively, I think in 2025, there is a need to have quality interaction in video interaction. And that if you are authentic and genuine, that will come through in your interaction.
Mhm.
Yes, it's important to sometimes be in the same place and breathe the same air. But at the same time, we live in a time where there is opportunity to have authentic, genuine engagement with people that we have never met. I think one of my best friends in the world right now is Mickey Macature. He lives in the Philippines. Never met him.
Oh yeah,
Everyone's best friend is Mickey.
everybody's.
And you know,
So
and so
easy to
and-
get along with that guy. Yes.
and so, and having said that, my house of worship had had worship this past Sunday in person on the land that they plan to build the church on.
Yeah.
The people that were there, they were so happy because they were seeing each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's fellowship.
but
That's
but
yeah.
but having said that, I recognize that the power of that in person situation, but it does not diminish the fact that someone at a nursing home that
Oh
got
yeah.
a chance
No.
to watch that experience
Right.
could glean some benefit from it as well.
Right. But we used to do
And
that
so
with radio, right?
and so
You do a radio
again, I
broadcast
push.
from a church. Yeah.
Yeah, I pushed the idea that it is not just about the visual interaction. It's about the authenticity, the feeling, the compassion, the being in tune with the person that you're engaging with, whether it's in person or whether it's through a camera.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think digital spaces are spaces, right? So you could go, in the old days, you'd go to a bar and you'd meet new people. They'd become friends or not become friends. They're just in
Right.
person, but that's a space that you met them. Someone that you
Mhm.
might meet in a social setting,
At a bus
you
stop. Yeah.
will be at a bus, could become a close friend. And I think that
They
if we
do.
look
Yeah.
at these Zoom spaces as
Do we
a
make
digital
ourselves available for that? That's what I'm getting at. Like, I make myself available for an interaction with a stranger at any moment. I'm happy to do that. And 3 or 4 of my closest friends, 2 I met on a bus, and now I constantly, I'm in contact with them. But I have the same feeling that I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't meet them in person and they didn't find out who I was as a guy who feels things.
But I don't think I think what and I don't want to speak for Tony, but I think what my point is that both things are correct, right? So meeting people on a bus stop in a digital space, in a regular space, and then that friendship, which
Totally
could have
different.
just been
Totally
an
different.
interaction
Yes.
that becomes a
Yeah.
friendship, is
Mhm.
similar to some of the people that I meet. They're just people that I meet online. We're not friends. And some of the
Yes.
people become friends. And whether I met them
Yeah.
on a bus stop or met them in a digital space, that
Mhm.
friendship is built over shared experiences, multiple shared experiences. You didn't meet someone at a bus stop and then leave and then
Yeah.
consider them your
I
friend.
loved hearing Tony say authenticity because that's
Yeah.
the thing. I can be authentic with people who I trust. And if they
Right.
trust me, they let me in.
Right.
That can be done over a wire. Yes, it can. We do
Dave-
it with radio all the time.
Dave,
But
I would
I'm
add
still
another
waiting
piece to that.
for the
It's not just being authentic to others, it's being authentic to ourselves. And Roland actually made an interesting comment, and I don't know if this is where you're going, Roland, but this is what it brought up for me. He says why call-in radio was so important. Hearing my own voice is important to me. It's important not just that others hear me, but that I hear myself and am able to express myself and feel heard by others. And I'll give you a good example of this. So I'm working with a developer now on an app, and I will write it. We're using Trello as a way to keep track of bugs and things like that. And so I'll write a comment and something, and then I'll sit there and I'll stare at it and waiting to see when he has heard my message.
Or
it's like the
reacts,
read
yeah.
receipts on on messages,
emails, yeah.
or when someone's typing and you see the 3 dots in text message,
Yeah.
but then nothing pops up, right?
Yeah. That's now a movie
Be-
device. You know that's a tension device in movies now, where
Right.
people stare at their phone with the 3 dots going, and they actually zoom right in on the dots. You don't know if he heard you. Yeah.
Part of it is I want them to know what I'm saying. Part of it is also I just want to be heard and seen by
Well,
another
also-
person
Also connected. Remember
and
in
connected.
the the World War issue when mailbags would show up, and you were waiting for somebody from home to write you, but you were in a war zone, you were far away, maybe they did send it, but it went to the wrong APO or something, so that connection with somebody that you trust and that trusts you, and that was the technology at that time. And now we have that instant technology. But the feeling, what I hear from Tony, is that the authenticity of humans to humans, I think, is what we've discovered tonight. Dave, you did a great introduction of what is conversation. Tony, you have been practicing conversation now for over how many episodes. And early days with Madeline, I realized, oh, we were doing a performance, which is a legitimate reality communication with an audience, but it was a one-way communication. And Paskin, what I hear you saying is it's a give and take. Tamara, what I'm missing from you is that bottle of Merlot. I'm just saying.
And the question that I would leave us with is what you just described, Sky. Is that possible with ChatGPT? Can I have... See, I see you shaking your head, Dave, but I'm not convinced that it's that simple. I think these tools are getting better and better, and I think that the possibility of having a real conversation with a chatbot is, if it isn't here, it's not too far away. Tamara, go ahead.
I think what you said before was incredibly enlightening, which is this medium has helped not only us have conversations with each other, but to understand who we are personally.
There it is.
And to really get a chance. I have more black clothes in my wardrobe because I am a backstage girl that never, ever, ever comes on stage. As a matter of fact, I've produced shows where during the talk back, I would not be on that stage having conversation with those people. And so I think that I have developed in learning about myself through being able to hear and see and be comfortable on camera with all of my flaws, with all the things that I've always hated, and being able to be in that space. I do think that one of the things we know about ChatGPT is that it is a one-sided conversation, but it's a mirror conversation. And as I'm having deeper and deeper conversations with ChatGPT on a topic, I am having deeper and deeper conversations with what I am thinking. It is allowing me to say, I didn't understand that. Let me rephrase. That was helpful, but I now need this. And it isn't so much that I'm getting a friend-to-friend conversation. I don't think that's what's happening. But what is happening that is very similar to what we've discovered in kind of this blossoming in this digital space where we're all forced to go there, is that we're able to learn to clarify our own thinking and our own authenticity. So yes, there are things that are taken away, but I do think that what we are seeing is a mirror of what we're putting into it. And where it's if you have deeper conversations and look through deeper meanings to what your essential prompt is, of course, there's lots of prompts that are like, hey, what about this? That is saving me time to have deeper thought conversations, right? I'd love to save time.
It's not intelligence unless it can tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about.
But I'm not looking to make a relationship with ChatGPT. But I think that the thing that technology has given us is a way to look at ourselves in deeper ways and to start accepting the things we don't like and be putting ourselves out in spaces that we never would before. I mean, I'm here like every week. Why?
You've heard about the AI psychosis, right? Where people actually believe that the AI is a manifestation of something, you get that? So some people are vulnerable to that because they have something about their relationship with the world that doesn't work. And then they choose ChatGPT just feeds them back to themselves. And now I'm God.
And there's non-technical people who have the same thing in real life situations.
In real life,
So we are dealing with the same kind of thing throughout.
One of the great therapies that they use is to give schizophrenics a dead phone. And they can walk down the street and talk to their voices over a phone. And it really helps.
Right. Well, I have ugly cried over the death of a pet versus relatives. So in this self-help experience, the voices that we hear in our head. So, Paskin, tag, you're it.
Tag, I'm
I
it.
think we should be careful on not saying that it's a conversation. I think the definitions that we did hear tonight are good and they're talking from human to human. So I'm sure you're getting a lovely assistant. It's not conversation. It's something else. Maybe we don't have a word for it yet. I don't know.
It's a great question. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not convinced I agree with you, but I really appreciate the question because it's a good one. It's a good one. Tamara, as you were speaking about wearing the black clothes backstage, you gave me an idea that I'd like to explore maybe for next week, and that is how technology has impacted self-perception, how we see ourselves, not only visually, but how we imagine ourselves and think of ourselves. Again, with AI chatbots and all this other stuff. But how is and of course also the Instagrams and all that. The fact that my girls cannot go out to eat without taking a picture of their food and them with their food and the food on them. And so, in any case, that may be something we explore. But I'm grateful to all of you for a really lovely Thursday night. Thank you. And thank you to all of you for joining us and everyone who's in the chat. Roland, Beauty Bubble. Wait, tell me real quick, Sky. You said that Beauty Bubble has a long history.
We have a long history with this community, so it's fun to see her again on our in this conversation.
That is
So,
lovely.
yes.
Beauty Bubble, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. And Vic is here. Who else am I seeing here? I'm not going to pronounce this correctly. Vegeta, I'm not sure. K-Porn 2. My goodness. Sky is even in there. Oh, my goodness. I'm Fatness. Good to see all of you, and thank you so much for watching and being a part of the conversation. If you want to sit in here with the cool kids, just hit me up on Discord, send me an email, whatever it is. Communicate. Converse with me. And I promise there's a seat for you at the table. All right, my friends. Until next week. See you soon.